So welcome everybody. I'm Pascal Brackman, co-founder of RouteYou, and welcome on this webinar, RouteYou for Beginners. We had one already about how to use routes. This is one part of the preparation of how do you plan a specific route. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Before we start, you can ask questions using the chat function of Zoom. Your microphones are mute, which means that we can't hear you. So if you want to ask a question, please add the question to the chat, and we will try to follow up the questions and answer immediately. So we are watching your questions. In the first part, Rein will do this. So let me introduce Rein. Rein is our responsible of marketing and communication, and she will also explain the biggest part of the story tonight. If she's talking, I will be the watchdog and answer your questions in the meantime. So you don't have to take notes. We will upload this video, and I'm just checking if the recording works fine, and it does. If we will record this session and we will upload it to our YouTube channel, and we will send you an email so you can review this webinar on YouTube and replay everything in slow motion if you like to see it again. So what will we talk about this evening? We will talk about the preparation phase, because RouteYou is developing software and functionality for the complete route circle. So the first part is the preparation phase. We covered one part already last time, which is searching for specific routes. Tonight we will discuss very specifically creating a specific route, which is the preparation phase. We will very briefly discuss the usage of the route, but that's most of all covered by our previous webinar, which we will also add in the links of the YouTube video. There's also a lot of functionality about the post experience. If you recorded the route, to do something with that recording, to share it with friends, and also analyze your routes. So this part we will not cover in this webinar, but is part of many other webinars. So the focus point is on the preparation phase, more specifically creating routes. If you want to see all the functionality about planning routes, we also have an advanced route planning session on May 3. So please subscribe. We will show you later on the links. But that's what we will cover tonight. First of all, Rein will explain you how to register and log in, and also adapt your language. I've seen that a lot of people who are following tonight are Dutch speaking, but you're very welcome, of course, to follow this webinar. But that's probably due to your settings, that your settings are not switched yet to Dutch, yeah, and the default English is used. So Rein will explain you this. She will also explain you the basics of planning a route. How do you plan a loop? How do you look at the results? And then what's the difference from A to B routing, and adding addresses will be focused upon. The third part, I will look into more advanced options. What are the different routing options and why are they there? And also we will look into the map layers. And for the people who are in the neighborhood of France, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, we will also cover the node network and what you can do with the fietsknooppunten network, or walking nodes network. We will also discuss the different map layers and what they're useful for in planning a route. Rein will show you, excuse me, to adapt a route you created already. And I will end with showing you how you also can use all the functionality we show you here on desktop, how you also can use that on a smartphone. And then I will just finish up with showing you or telling you what the advanced course of route planning is all about. Rein, I will stop sharing and see if you can take over.
Yeah. If all's good, you should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, okay, perfectly. Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna guide you through the first part, and we will start with the beginning, which is how can you, or why would you register on RouteYou? As you can see now, I'm not logged in, so I'm here as a user without an account. That's possible on RouteYou. You can do most of the basic stuff even without an account. You can search for a route, you can plan a route, but there's certainly some advantages to having your own account, like saving certain routes or making a group or making for example, an event or something like that. For that, we need you to have an account so we can link that stuff to your channel, your My RouteYou channel. So how can I register myself? Well, you have the login button here at the top right, or you can also have it here in the main menu at the top. If you click it, you come to this screen. If you already have an account, you can log in here. If you don't have one, you can register here with this button. It's quite straightforward. You add an account name, an email address, you confirm it. After all these settings, you can here also immediately enter your preferred language. So if you're not an English-speaking person, you can also choose another language here. I will show you later how you can adjust it if you don't have the right setting. This is also important because of this is how we approach you communication-wise. So if you have English as your main or your preferred language, we will only send you communication in English, and we, for example, will only advise you or invite you to follow a webinar in English. We won't send you an invite for a webinar in Dutch, of course. And it's also the other way around. If you have the preferred language in Dutch or French or whatever, we will only send you invites for webinars or other stuff that is according to your language. So that is how you register here. If you have done that, we will also send you an email to confirm that you have entered this request for an account. And then you can log in. So if I would log in here with my free account, then I enter RouteYou, and as I said before, you can do everything or the most of the basic stuff even with a free account. You can see my free account is not indicated as an English account. So to adjust that, I go via this button to my RouteYou channel, or I can go directly to my profile. And then here you have preferences, and here I can adjust it to English. So I will put the website in English as well. So you can see here it's preferences, and I can adjust it here. My current preferred language is Dutch. I can adjust to English, and then the website will keep on providing me information in English. So that's important. As you can see here, you can choose the language. We also have some flags. So if I choose English worldwide, this will have an effect. If I go to the map, he will zoom out to the world. If I would, for example, choose English from the UK or Great Britain, then the map will always, the standard maps will always zoom in to Great Britain. So that's a bit the difference, or that is why we have different options in English here available. So if I have my free account, I can of course also, and now I will log in with a Plus account, and that's a paid account. We have a lot of advantages linked to that, of course. For example, there's a lot more functionality available. If you have a paid account like a Plus account, you will, for example, have no annoying ads to see. And then the website will also, you can surf it faster, like 30% faster. You can adapt routes of others. You can use routes offline. You can use Google Maps and a lot more. To have a complete overview, you can go to the upgrade page. I haven't showed you that, excuse me for that. So if you have a free account and you want to upgrade to a Plus account, you just push the upgrade button. You also have it here in the main menu, and then you will enter.
Dutch.
Yes, I can see. Then you will enter this page. So here you can, I have now already my Plus accounts here, but if I had my free account here, it would also say upgrade now and try for free. So at any moment you can try a RouteYou Plus account for free for 2 weeks. So you can have a look and feel if it's suited for you and if the extra functionality would be an advantage for you. So again, here my current profile is in Dutch, so I will adjust my preferences here. So my preferred language is English, and then it won't switch to Dutch anymore. So that's about registering and adjusting the language. And as I said, you can always upgrade via this button or try this type of account for free for 2 weeks. So today we're about planning a route. And if I go to the homepage, there are several ways to go to our route planner. On any device, you can go to the planner via the main menu. So you can here go to plan a route, create a route, which is a bit, it disappears sometimes a bit in all the information. That's why we created some shortcuts. You have a shortcut here on top of the page, which directly brings you to plan a route. You can create a route, upload a route here directly, and you can even click a hiking and cycling notes, but I will come back to that later. And also there's this button here, plan a route, that will also bring you to the route planner. It's the same if I show you on another device. Of course, my screen is not that wide, like this is how my smartphone would look like. And here as well, you can go via the main menu, or you have the button here to go directly to create a route, or you can choose plan a route, create a route here directly. So I'm going to close the smartphone view here. So I clicked here, create a route. And that brings me to the route planner. As you can see, we have 2 parts here. You have the map part. I chose here English like worldwide. And as I said, it now zooms into the world. If I would have chosen English, the UK, as you can see, the map will zoom in to that country. So this is the map part, and there's some interesting functionality integrated here via these icons. So for example, the first button that gives you the opportunity to show the map on your entire screen, which can come in handy if you want to plan a route from A to B and you want to have more detail and you don't want to be disturbed by the route planning module. That can be quite handy. Another button is like, for example, if you're in the field or you're at home and you're deciding you want to go hiking in 15 minutes and you want to quickly plan out or map out a route, well, then you can click this button here and then the map will zoom in to your current location. Watch out, it's necessary, but normally the system will ask you to give RouteYou access to your location data, of course. Otherwise, the system can't pinpoint where you are and do this suggestion. You can also go to a certain place. Let's say I want to go to Cork in Ireland. Well, I can enter it here and then the system will zoom in to that location. You can now use the other buttons as well. So I can zoom out, zoom in and zoom out again, or I can use this one to zoom in to a certain area just like this. The last button gives you access to the different maps, but that will come back later on when Pascal is presenting, so I won't go in further to this. So that's about the map. Next to the map, you have like the planning module. This is where we enter our preferences and we can manipulate what is happening on the map. So the first choice you have to make is if you want to plan a route from A to B, or if you want to plan out or map out a round trip. If you choose the round trip option, then that's basically that you choose a certain beginning and an end point because it's a round trip, and the system will map it out for you automatically. So you don't have to make choices, you just have to say, I want to start there, and then the system will map it out. So you can also here then, the next thing is that you choose a certain route type. So here for the moment, it's indicated all types. And this also has an effect on the routing types. Before I make my choice, I want to show you that currently, while this is indicated on all, here you can see that the complete routing list is available. So all the options are indicated here. From the moment I make a choice, for example, if I say I want to go hiking and I choose I want to map out a walking route, then you will see that this list is a lot shorter. The same if I choose a recreational cycle route, this list is a lot shorter. I can also choose for array cycling. I have some more options here, but it will adapt like to the available option according to your route type choice you make here. So that's important to know. So let's say I want to map out, for example, a motorcycle route here in the vicinity of Cork. Well, I can now say I'm just going to click somewhere. I'm going to start here in the city center. And voila, I chose a round trip, and the system automatically maps out a round trip from about 50 kilometers. The length is also indicated here on the map. And from the moment I start planning, I can also toggle this button, and then it will show you the height profile. So also here, there's an indication of the length of your route, and you can have an indication of which kind of hills you will encounter. Now with a motorcycle. You won't have a lot of disadvantages of that, but when you're hiking or cycling, that may be a big difference. So you can toggle this via this button. So what else is interesting here, even though the system maps it out a bit automatically for you, you can still manipulate it. I can drag it and just leave it again, and then the route will adapt. But other stuff I can do is I can play with the length, and then the system will automatically adapt the route according to the length I indicated. So now I have a route for about 95 kilometers. The next thing I can do, and that's really cool feature, is that you can choose in which direction he maps out your route. So let's say I'm staying at Cork for several days, and I want to do a route in two directions. One day towards the south, like it's indicated here, because this is my starting point. And then I want to map out a route in the northerly direction. Well, then I can just pinpoint it like this, and the system will adapt and show me an option in the other direction. So you can play with this, pretty fun. So that's really a handy feature to be using, and you can also click it out again if you would want to. So let's say I want to go to the north. I have my route from about 100 kilometers. Here are some via points that are indicated with their address. And now I can I talked about it a lot. So, but normally if you just do the handling, you can make a route in a few minutes or even seconds, and then just choose to save the route. If you choose to save the route, then this window will pop up. Here it's indicated in your main language, but if you want to add information in another language, then you should change this. You can give here another name to your route, motor tour north of Cork, for example. It's already indicated as I chose my route type, but you can give a more detailed type to it. For example, if it's a touring motorcycle route, or it's especially interesting for that type, I can just indicate it here as being just that. Here I can use this field to add a description. As you saw, we automatically enter your start and end point here, but you can also delete that and enter your own description here. So that description, make it interesting, because your route score depends on it a bit. It's one of the things we take into account. It's not, we don't need you to write a book about your route, but it's always nice for people to have an indication of what they can expect, or what it is you want to have said about this route to other people. So that's about the description. I can now save my route. That only takes a few seconds. Depending on the length of the route, it might take a bit longer or a bit shorter. And once I save the route, that brings me to another screen, and this is what we call the route viewer. Here in the route viewer, again, I have the height profile, which I can toggle on or out. And if I refresh my screen after a few seconds, you will see that the system automatically adds points of interest to the route. So this is something that is done automatically. I will show you later on how you can maybe adjust these points of interest. But if you want to know all about it, you have to come to our webinar about advanced planning, where we show you more about this and the possibilities to plan for example, via points of interest or to adapt them later on. So this is about the map part. There's also an information part here to the right column. We have several tabs here. So the first one is with all the information. You have here who's the author, if the route is public or not. Here is your route description. It's now only this that I entered. You have some direct buttons to go and navigate and use this route, but I will come back to that later on. And then there's this part, which is the route information. It's interesting to have a look at it. It gives you some basic information like starting and end point, which is the same in this case, but also our system automatically adds some characteristics and themes maybe to your route. So in this case, it's automatically indicated that this is a loop-shaped route and that this route is paved 100%. You can edit this by clicking this button, and you can, for example, add some characteristics saying, this is an adventurous route, it's motorcycle friendly. So I should have a look where that exactly is. Maybe it's autumn recommended. You can indicate if it's, here is motorcycle friendly, if it's signposted or not. And you can, for example, also add some themes, but again, we go deeper into this in the next more advanced webinar. So I will close this and you will see that these icons are adapted. There's also an indication of in which region your route is situated and some statistics. For example, here a bit on the general difficulty level, which is actually a compilation of several things. So the total ascent is this 1,463 meters, which makes it not that difficult for being a motorcycle route. Next to the total amount of the total ascent, you also get an indication of your maximal slope percentage. So that again, especially for example, road cyclists, this might be very interesting. Here there's again an indication of the length of your route and a general difficulty level, because also the length may be determining if a route is more difficult or not. So then there follows the points of interest that are located next to your route. And here is the option to leave comments. And the first to leave you a comment is RouteYou. We call this the RouteYou Start Tracker, and it also contains some interesting practical information about your route. Like, for example, how appropriate it is as the route type which is indicated. If it's 100% paved, for example, for a hiking route, it might be interesting if it's not. The traffic load, noise pollution, which kind of nature, which kind of landscape you're cruising through, and that kind of stuff. So that's all indicated here. Then there's some other tabs. For example, this tab. This is something we also explained more extensively in our previous webinar about using a route. So there are three options. You can use the route on your smartphone. So you can use this to open this route directly on your smartphone, but Pascal will probably show you this later on. You can also download it. Here we have the three most used options on top, but you can also here toggle this button, and then you have a lot more options. So we have a lot more than the general GPX, but be aware for most systems, for most GPS system, which if it is a GPS device, or maybe you have a GPS app or another app that you use on your smartphone, you will be able to use this general GPX. But some systems, they have specific, how do I say it, characteristics for the GPX, and we try to offer them here. But normally you will be able to use the general GPX. You don't need a specific one. You can see here as well that the first download option is to download the route for offline use. This is a feature that is available from a Plus account. So you can just download the route, and it downloads the route, but it also downloads the points of interest and the map in several detail level. So if you use the map offline, if you go in the field and you don't want to use your Wi-Fi or your 4G, you can shut it down and you can still navigate the route. The only thing that needs to be active is the GPS or location service of your device itself. So that's the offline use of a route. And then there's, of course, the print options. We have the overview map, which is just that, an overview of the route. I will quickly show you. You can just click it here and then choose or click the download button, and the system will deliver you in a few seconds, in this case, the overview map, which looks like this. So the title of the route, some practical information, the possibility to scan the QR code to use the route directly on your smartphone. You have also the height profile and then the route. So that's the overview map, but there's also the road book, which divides the overview map in smaller maps with more detail, and also gives you some a list of instructions. And then there's also the guide, which is really interesting if you want to take with you all the information about the points of interest. So then you have the point of interest pinpointed, and all the information that's saved or stored in our system is indicated there. So with these print options, you can make your own route guide from this route. But again, we showed that in our previous webinar, so I won't go into that here today. Back to planning a route. So I'm going back to the RoutePlanner. And then the next thing I want to show you is that where we made the choice to plan a round trip like more automatically from our system, I will now show you how you can, for example, plan a route from A to B. So RouteYou is a worldwide platform. All the functionality that we offer you can use anywhere in the world. So let's say that I now want to map out, for example, a walking route, and I want to go to, let's go to France. Here, this is a really nice part on the coast of the north of France. Let's say I want to go here, for example, to Wimereux, or no, let's say even better here, Wissant, and I want to walk all the way to Cap Grigny here, more to the west. So I chose my route type. I chose to map out a walking route, and here I can choose my routing. Here you can see that where I chose a round trip before, I only had one option. If I choose from A to B, I have more options, like shortest, for example. It's normal, because if you would have the option shortest with a round trip, yeah, then the system will just let you stay at home, of course. The others, I won't go into it because they're very specific. And again, these are explained in the more in the webinar about advanced planning. So let's keep it to hiking nicest. And let's say I want to start here in Wissant in the city center. And then I can just click around along the coast. And now I'm planning from A to B all the way up to the point here that I want to have. And here I can have my great view on the ocean here at Cap Grigny. But mapping out a route from A to B doesn't really mean that you have to make a route from A to B in the sense that you make a line. You can also map out a loop with the A to B option. The difference is that you choose more specifically which points or via which way you want to go. So if I want to go back towards Wissant, I can now choose, I want to go like this, I want to go via this village, and then I want to go like this. And the system will follow this routing type and will give you some possibilities. You can change this, and you can drag and drop the route just like you want. And as I said before, even with this A to B routing, making a route, you can also choose to, with this handy button, return to your starting point. I will click it now, and then I have a loop as well. So that's also a way to make a loop, but in this case, your round trip is mapped out more specifically, and you chose more specifically the via points. Again, here, if I zoom out here on the map, but again, here I can save the route. You can indicate other things here and just click and save this route. So that's mapping out a route from A to B. Then there's one more thing I want to show you about mapping out a route from A to B. Let's say I want to make a route and I don't want to click the map like this, but I want to map out a route. For example, let's say that I want to be, you have, for example, Aberdeen here in Scotland, and I'm living here and I want to make a cycle route and I want to go to my friends here in West Hill. So I can enter as well an address here. For example, if I'm living in School Hill, number 10 in Aberdeen, Scotland, that's my starting point. And I want to go to Westwood Drive, that's where my friends live, number 32 in Scotland. And I can just, if I click enter now, then the system will automatically make a route. Oh, I made a mistake. I haven't chosen my route tab, so I can still adjust it. So I click here, I want to map out, for example, a recreational cycling route. Then the system will ask me, where do you want me to apply this routing? Do you want to change the full route or do you want to only use it for the next modification? Again, this will be explained in the webinar more advanced planning. Here, I just want to change the full route, and now it is changed and adapted to paths and roads that are interesting for recreational cyclists. Let's say I want to add another destination. I want to go and visit friends in Dice. Well, again, here I can enter their address, Glen Route 21 in Dice, and also click enter, and then the system will give me a route from this point to another, and I can drag and drop. And that's of course it's necessary for the roads to be available for the system to be able to map them out. And again, here I can return to my starting point just like this and save my route. So that is how this works. Pascal, I don't know if there are any questions about this.
No, there are no questions so far.
Okay, then I suggest we go to the next part.
Yes, I will share my screen. Yes, Rain explained already very well the basics of planning a route. We will look into a bit more detail. What are those routing options doing now? So also I'm going to select plan a route, which I can start here, and I'm going to start creating a route. I'm also set as English in the UK, so that's why the area zooms in. But I can, of course, take any part of the area I like. Just going to take the part in north of France, and I'm going to select a race cycling route. So I'm going to select from A to B, round trip we've covered already. So in this case, I'm going to select a race cycling route, or a road bike is another word for it. So I'm going to select race cycling. As Rein showed you already, you can enter an address, or I can just pick a certain kind of a certain place and click on the map. So for instance, I would like to go from Calais to Béthune, and the route gives me the nicest option. So why does it take that detour? So what's behind this? You will see that beside race cycling nicest, I also have some other options, such as race cycling shortest. Let me select this one. As Rein showed you already, the system asks you to adapt it. And of course, this is the shortest path. In that shortest path, you very easily, or very, in most of cases, you will get to along very busy roads. So I'm going to demonstrate you in another area what the difference is between a beautiful road and the shortest roads. I'm just going to start again. And I can start again by clearing the route. That's the button here at the bottom. I'm just going to clear the route I already have. So he asks me, are you sure? Yes. And I just want to demonstrate you race cycling shortest versus nicest. What does it really mean in an area I know where I live? So I'm going to go from just an area west of Brussels, from there towards Ninove, which is a specific place. And you see it's taking this fast road. I also asked the shortest. I'm just going to switch to a map layer and I'm going to show you again. Here's the map layer button. I want to switch to Google satellite images to see where he takes me. And Google satellite images also has this nice functionality, this Google Street View. I'm just going to take you to the Google Street View of the route which is taken. And this very boring and even dangerous road is now taken. And we will all agree, no, that's not the nicest thing which we can do to cycle from A to B in this case. So let me select Racing Cycling Nicest. So let's adapt the full route. You see, of course, the distance becomes a little bit different, but that's maximum like 35 to 40%. In this case, it's going to be only 20%, and you have a much nicer route. Let's show you what type of routes it takes and why we take those routes. So here's a space. So you get this kind of small, narrow routes, which are, you probably know from the classics, the cycling classics. It's paved because we took race cycling as an option. So the first thing what we analyze is the characteristics of the road itself. So we prefer, if we select nicest, we prefer narrow roads. We prefer, of course, paved roads. Unpaved roads will be eliminated. The fact that it's narrow or wider or busy or less busy is going to be more promoted, but not black and white, of course. So we prefer traffic, places with not a lot of traffic, preferably without any traffic, so only available for bicycles. So if you have all the characteristics of the road, what we also take into account is the neighborhood, the landscape around. So this is an open landscape, natural landscape, which we prefer. If this same road would be in an industrial area, we would not mark it as high. So that's the first set, the characteristics of the road and the surroundings. The second set of information is related to, is there any kind of professional information available from, for instance, the tourist organization, which says we have a lot of routes here passing by. There are classic routes made by professional organizations. If that's done, we also going to give an extra point, an extra stimulus to follow this path. And the third aspect is what we all do as customers. If a lot of people of the community are choosing this route, it's going to be an extra thing. So it's a complex formula why this route is selected, but you see the effect here. If you disagree with it, you can still adapt, as Rein showed you already. The moment I move my mouse over the route, you will see that the route, the green button pops up, and that green button allows me to drag and drop and adapt the route a little bit. So you can see you can do it up to detail. If you prefer this other route to be taken, it now takes this path. So you can still adapt it. The logic is that between those two via points or waypoints, you will always calculate according to what's set here. If you would have said, no, I selected race cycling shortest, let's do the full route. It will take you the shortest way from A to B, which is allowed. Of course, it will not take you along highways where you're not allowed to cycle in that case. So that's the example of what's the difference between race cycling nicest and shortest. We also have some other aspects, such as avoid climbs. In the beginning of the season, if you're not yet in full shape, you might like to avoid the climbs. Of course, you can see the height meters that's shown here. And let's take me some other aspects. Avoid cobblestones. Some people love it, some people hate it. That's why we offer this option to avoid cobblestones. And we also have an option to say, well, race cycling or road biking with a car. So what's the reason there? Well, a lot of cycling groups or cycling clubs, they have a car which are following them. And of course, we prefer to take you along paths where cars are not allowed or where there are not a lot of cars. This one will definitely take you a road where you can follow the cyclists with the car. So sometimes that leads to more detours, so you can play with this. So that's the difference between the most important type of routing. There are many others. Just play around. In the advanced webinar we give for route planning, we also explain what the others can do, because you can even plan manually in the desert to make your complete route. I'm just going to demonstrate that RouteYou is not limited to the UK or Germany or France. I just can click and keep on going. Of course, it has to be in a place where I have to do it a bit more neat. It doesn't allow me to snap in the middle of a field. So this is how I can very quickly make now a route of 2,000 kilometers, and it calculates, in this case, the nicest, and a car can follow me here. So that's I can do in a team. We didn't cover yet the node networks. Let's take the node networks. I'm going to go planner route, and I'm now going to take the cycling node networks. What are those? The system asks me, are you sure you want to leave this page? And the answer is yes. If I select the cycling node networks, you see immediately they're marked on the screen. So it's a very successful system of, first of all, selecting nice paths, so you know which ones to take. The second one is they also have numbers. So it's a number system. So people who just want to follow numbers on the street rather than looking at the map or on their screen all the time, that's an advantage. So it's very popular. It started here in Belgium, in the east of Belgium. Then it was expanding to the rest of Belgium. And now it's in Wallonia, in north of France, in the Netherlands, also a big part of Germany. So it's a very successful network. So what's the difference? Well, it's also a routing option. And here I said, well, I'm I'm a cyclist, and I would like to follow the node cycling network. So in that case, if I would click in between the area, you will see that it automatically snaps to that network. And the advantage is that network is a very nice network. So it gives you a good quality of cycling. Most of the time it's car free. And sometimes there's a difference between paved and unpaved. So that's marked here. If you would like to understand what's the meaning of this kind of information, well, here we have the map layers. Here I show on top of the base maps. So here are the base maps which we have available. I show the cycling node network, and I can click on the question mark to see what does all that information mean. So this means unpaved, and this means car-free. So that's an unpaved car-free part, which you might like to prefer that. Some race cyclists like it also, but of course with race cyclists, I want to take the node network, but in that case, I only want the paved one. So that's also an option where I can select the routing, and now it will give me some detours to go from A to B to C to D, and I can just make a round trip over that node network. So what's the advantage here? Let me take you around. Yeah, you see that with this case, a lot of parts are unpaved, so that's why you get this big detour sometimes to get around. Let's save that route. Reen showed you already this the save option. I'm just going to save, and what you will see now that if you created the cycling cycling route over the node network, you get a node list summarized here, but you have some nicer options to print. Reen showed you already the print options. Let me just show you this one. We have the node strip, and that's the most compact way of cycling your route. A lot of cyclists just put it on their bike. Let's open it. And here you see, these are the numbers I have to follow. That's the distance in between. Of course, the digital version is handier. And of course, we also have that available, because if you don't like the print, we also have the digital version on the app, or in the download, we support all the GPS systems if you would like that. So that's the node strip in several flavors. We also have the overview, which Reen showed you already. Also there on the overview, in case if it's a node network, we will also show you the numbers of that node network. Let me show you here. So that's the overview. That's your location where you are, in this case in Belgium. And this gives you the nodes you have to follow from A to B to C and so on. So that's the nodes you have to follow in this case. I prefer this map rather than the strip you've seen before. And the reason is the moment you make you're wrong and you end up, for instance, in this case in Borgloon, you know is like approximately where you are, and you know that you have to go north to get back on track. So that's the advantage. And of course, the digital version is easier because that allows you to follow the route as Rein showed you. So that's the node network system. It also exists for hiking, for people who like to walk. That's the same thing, but you will see it's less popular yet for walking, but also that is extending to a lot of areas. And I know quite some tourist areas are busy now creating their own specific networks, which show to be very popular in the Benelux. I just want to show you some other map layers as base maps. So depending a bit on your activity, if you're a hiker or a cyclist, you might like to say, well, I'm going to look at certain kind of base maps. So in this case, I'm selected hiking or walking. I would definitely recommend you have a look at the open walk map. So if you select open walk map, and you, for instance, let's take something very different, Switzerland, you will see that first of all, that map layer gives you a lot of information about height profiles, but it also gives you already some lines which are indicated. And the principle is that those lines on the open walk map, if they're colored, they probably are interesting for you to follow as a walker. Same story for cyclists. Let's take a cycle route. I'm now in the modus of the cyclist, and I'm going to see that now I don't have the walking map, but I have the open cycle map. Let's select this one. And also here, you see that there's a lot of information for the cyclists. On top of that map, I can still select what kind of routing I want. In this case, I can say I follow RouteYou's recreational cycling nicest. So I can click from A to B. And the underlying map is just there for you to give you some information you might like to follow. But for instance, if you would prefer to follow this part, I can easily move it and say, well, please follow this part. And you see the system will take even a shortcut. If I really want to follow the route information there, I can adapt and make my route based on these kind of reference maps. We will also see in our masterclass that we also have reference routes you can select specifically, but this is already a very nice source of inspiration to make your own route based on information which is available in that country. You will see that it's different from country to country. So in Switzerland, it's a bit different. That let's go to the Benelux, for instance, and you see in the Benelux, you have a very dense network of all kind of routing information. So it's depending from country to country what you get. Let me show you some other maps. I'm going to go back to RouteYou base map to get it a bit less busy. I also want you to show you something where we have the information available of a certain layer, which is road properties. Let's switch on road properties. And the road properties give you an indication of, is this paved, is this unpaved, but also the quality of unpaved roads. And if you wonder what do those icons mean, you can just click again on the legend, and the legend will tell you this is unpaved, but a stable road. So probably this is very good, or not probably, this is very good for recreational cyclists. This is unpaved road surface in loose material. This is not great for just a recreational city bike, but it's useful for a mountain bike. So that's, for instance, the difference. It also gives you gradients and stuff like that. So that's available there. Also, if paths are, if you're not allowed to enter the path, that will be indicated. For instance, if it's private or so, that will be indicated that you can't cycle there. So that's very useful because you can still combine the recreational cycling routing from A to B in this case and say, well, look, I don't want to follow, or I do want to follow the specific roads, and I don't want to have an unpaved road. And that's what you see here. Of course, we will take into account that kind of information in our routing options. Let me just check if there's some other interesting maps. Oh yes, there's some topographical maps which might be interesting to have. You see the detail of that topographical map is huge, which is great for a reference, but might sometimes be busy. For instance, race cyclists don't like it that much because it has too much information. But you, if you prefer it, you can switch it on. If you want less information, you can take a bit less information, and you will see the difference with, for instance, a Google map classically and a topo map, which has a lot of information, including the height information. But this is, for instance, a power line you might use as a reference. Very much liked by hikers and walkers and mountain bikers. So just make use of it if you like it. I will also show you later on that you can also use this on your smartphone, for instance, to navigate. So just play around with the map layers and discover a bit what those things mean. This is something which we will cover later on in the master classes, where you can also show places of interest, routes, and even who's active to share that. Rein, are there any questions? I think you're
no questions so far, sorry.
Okay. Then I would pass it on to you to see how you can adapt routes.
Yes. Okay. I will share my screen. Normally should be able to see it. If not, please, hello.
Yeah.
Okay, so next part is about how you can adapt a route. So to go to the routes that you have made, there's again 2 options. You can go via the main menu and here go to your My Routes directly. So it's the same here. You can go to My Routes. And actually what that direct shortcut does is the same as when you would go to your My RouteYou channel and choose then here to go to your routes. So it's the same. The difference is that if you choose My Routes, then the filter that you're the author of the routes will be indicated as well. Here I could filter like which are the most recently created or edited routes, and then that brings up the routes that I have made in Aberdeen and Wissahickon and Cork before. So let's say I take this motor tour north of Cork, and I want to adapt it a bit. I want to make it a bit longer. I don't want to go this way, but I want to go that way. Or maybe, no, I want to go to Carrick to Hill here. So I want to adapt my route. So to do that, I have to go here in the right menu. And then there's here this pencil, which brings you to the edit menu. So everything in here is about adapting and editing your route. So in this case, I want to bring my route back to the route planner, and I want to adjust it. So that's exactly what the system does for me. And now here I can play with it. You can see here these via points. So that is what I need to adjust. So let's say I want to go to Middleton as well. And then like this is okay, but then I don't like this part here. Let's say, for example, I want to remove, oh, I did something wrong. Sorry, I just click undo that last click. So if I go over this, then I can see that it's this point on the map. And if I click it here, you can see it becomes red. So I can also say I want to delete this part, so this way. And then here, maybe I can drag and drop it a bit so that there's no, like this. I don't want that. Yeah, voila. So this way I can adapt my route. But as you can see, and that's a very cool new feature, and that's the fact that you can see where the route went before. So if I would want to go and do this part, actually I liked it, or maybe I did the route before and I want to make an adaptation. So in this case, I can also say, okay, I want to go back and I still want to do this part. So I can adapt the route a bit to what it was originally and just take this loop with it. So that's how you can bring it back to the route planner. Then now I want to save the route again. Here I have 2 options. If I do nothing and I now save the route, then the initial route will be overwritten. If I want to save the initial route, I can also choose to save this as a new route. So in this case, it will make a second route with these adaptation underneath my account, which is linked to my RouteYou channel. So this is a new route, same thing. If I press enter after a few seconds, this route to this route will be added some points of interest. Again, if I go to this pencil, I can also adjust those points of interest. Actually, that is only possible if you have a plus account or higher. So I can remove in one instance all the places of interest, or it's just a simple click on the button. And then afterwards, I can again add places of interest as well. So it's the same. Actually, here there's a lot more options, but I won't go into that now. So because I can choose characteristics, points of interest that are linked to a certain characteristic or a certain team, certain distance, and things like that. But this is something we cover as well in the advanced planning webinar. But be aware that you can adjust this and play with it to adapt your route. So another thing, I now saved my route as being public, so that's indicated here, but I can also keep it private. So let's say if I have friends that I want to go cruising with on Sunday, and I have a friend I want to have checked out my route if he likes it before I go public with it, well, then I can leave it private. To do that, again, go to the pencil because I want to edit my route. In this case, I want to go to the basic data, and then here I can choose to make it private. And then if I confirm, then it will be indicated here that this route is private. The eye is now red, which means that it's not visible for other users. This is also something if I create a route, I will quickly make a round trip, for example. And if you save it here, you can immediately choose to keep it private as well. And then afterwards, if you have done everything you want and it's like you prefer to publish it, then you can put it public in the same way as I have shown you how to put it private. So this is how you can adapt your own routes. Now, maybe you are interested to adapt the route of somebody else. So I will clear my filters here. And let's say I'm in search of a race cycle route, for example. Let's zoom in maybe here to the Netherlands. I don't know if there's other filter. No, let's say I want to with a higher score, for example. I have, and I wanted, of course, a route in English. These options we have all shown you in the previous webinar, but here I have an option. This route is available in English as well. And if I would now want to adapt this route, I can again go to the pencil. But as you can see now, because I'm not the author of this route, the options to adapt it are way less. And again, this is a functionality that is also only available from a plus or higher. So there's three options here. You can invert the route, change the starting point. Let's say if I'm having a hotel or a bed and breakfast here and I want to start here, I can change the starting point. Or I can just do it in another direction. Or if it's a long route, I can split it up in several parts. So those are the options. From the moment you choose one, the system won't adapt the original road cycling route. But what it will do is make a copy, adapt it to your preferences, and then write it away or save it under your account linked to your My RouteYou channel. And that then makes you the author of that route. Be aware, it's not the intention that you go and just without any hesitation, just copy the route of somebody else and pretend that it's yours. Then that's a violation of the copyright. We can also see if you have done that, it's also indicated in our database, but it's free for you to take this route and adapt it a bit. And if you do so, please maybe mention the original author so that it's clear that where you got your inspiration from. So that's something to think about. But then from the moment that you made an adaptation to the route of somebody else and a copy is made to your account, you will have, again, full access to all the edit options. So that's about adapting a route. Pascal, to you for the last few things, unless there are questions about this.
No, there were no questions about this topic. Rien, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. The last part I want to show you is, can you all do this great functionality also on your smartphone directly? And in which case is that useful? Most of the time I use the planner on a Saturday evening to prepare my trip for my Sunday trip. But if you're late and you didn't have time to plan it, you can also do it straight on your smartphone. So the first question is, how do people get to RouteYou on their smartphone? And on first the mobile website I show you, and how do you get to the RouteYou app? Now, the nice thing is that as well, the RouteYou app has the same kind of structure that the range showed you on the desktop. And it's also true for the mobile website. So let's start with, how do you get to RouteYou on the smartphone? Well, go to Google or some search engine you have on your smartphone. Just type in RouteYou, and you will definitely get a link which brings you to RouteYou. Again, on the right side, I'm logged in. The system knows already I'm logged in, but otherwise here you can log in. The main buttons you had on your desktop are also appearing here. Rain showed you already that that button and that button also exists on your phone. So you see it's exactly the same kind of source base. So if I want to plan now, here is to search, but if I want to plan, again, the same story. You can activate it here, or via the main menu. I'm going to take the shortcuts and I'm going to create a route. So I don't have a map available next to it because it's too narrow. I can select my round trip. Most of the time I select a round trip. I select, I'm a cyclist in this case. I'm going to take a recreational cycling, about 60 kilometers. Following this solution, this routing option, I want to go in southwest direction. I can enter an address, but most of the time, if you're on a smartphone, you probably want to use the current position. So I'm going to select the current position. I could also do that. And then I get a few via points, but of course, it's hard to understand where you're going to via the via points. You get a bit of an indication, but viewing it on a map is much easier. So this allows you to view it on a map. By the way, there's also a tab button here to see the map. I can still adapt it if you like, but most of the time I don't. Before I press start, that's also new. You have here a start button. This is not something you have on your desktop, of course. I can press start. The system asks me, well, you better save it because if something goes wrong, you lose your route. I just save the route, and the system allows me to start immediately. I can record the route I'm following because sometimes I take a detour. I can share my position so other people see me or I don't. I press start. I'm not going to take the full screen, but on my normal phone, I would definitely say yes. And the system will start navigating. You will see that the system starts moving my map. If I would be away from the center of my screen, automatically it will adapt to my current position. Depending on the direction I drive, it will also follow my direction. Here, I can switch to any other map I had before. So if I like the topo map, or the Google Street View or whatever, I can select it here. I can combine it with the cycling node network with all the information I want. I can also put it a little bit in 3D view, so it's easier to navigate. So I now have to go straight, then at the first, I have to go left. These are the node networks. I also see that I did 0 meters. I still have to do 73 kilometers. I can click on this or on this green one. It brings me to the same. This gives me the statistics where when I should arrive, depending on my current kind of speed. So this is an example to make very quickly a round trip. I do it frequently from my home, and I'm still surprised which roads I discover, which I didn't know yet in my region. The same thing if you are somewhere and you still have time to go back home, let's do the same thing. I want to plan, but now I want to plan from A to B. Let's take, now I'm a mountain biker. I'm a mountain biker. I am somewhere. I want to go from my current position now to my home address. For instance, that's in Dilbeek in this case. I just say, well, give me the mountain bike path from my current position to Dilbeek, view the route. This is the path it shows me. And now I know it's also great to do with my my mountain bike. So that will be a lot of off-road. I can save it again. Same story as before. I can press start. So in a few seconds, I go from unprepared to I have my route as here, and I want to say no. And now I see I have to go a bit back and then to the left. But the moment I start cycling, the map will turn in the direction I want to. Some people hate that. That's also possible to switch that off. So that's in a nutshell how to do it on your smartphone without even installing an app. For those people who say, well, I prefer an app, and the advantage is that you lose this part or you gain this part. This is your browser part. Here on the right is my app. How do I get from A to B? Well, just in the main menu, you see the option here, install the RouteYou app. So you don't have to go to the App Store, or in Apple, it's not even there. So you go via this browser, you install the RouteYou app, so you don't have to go via the App Store to do so, and then you get to this. The structure is exactly the same. You do exactly the same functionality. The difference is that you gain here a little bit of space, which is handy on your smartphone because your smartphone is not that big. So that brings me to the last part. We didn't cover everything yet you can do with the RoutePlanner. So that's why we are giving an advanced webinar, a masterclass about route planning. And we're going to cover how do you do simple edits of other routes or your own routes, such as, oh, that's a typo, inverse direction. So if you have a route, just to do the inverse direction, to have another starting point. It might you might like a route, but it's not starting where you are at the moment. So how can you very quickly change that starting point? Or how can you make a long route split in several routes? The other part we're going to cover is points of interest. How can you add your specific set of points of interest? For instance, if you're a cyclist, you want to know about, for instance, the great cycling slopes you want to do, or stories linked to it. If you're a hiker and you love nature, how do you get points of interest related to nature to get your personalized route? And how can you plan along the specific set of points of interest? For instance, to create your own brewery route, to give an example. So that's what we're going to cover next time. We're also going to see how you can use multiple reference routes as a background. We showed you already in map layers how to use maps as a background, but you can also select your own reference routes or others as a reference to plan your own route. And we're also going to see how you can upload a route, a GPX you find somewhere, and to edit it and to play with it and make it, well, adapted to what you like. So that's the plan for next time. I'm going to check if Reen has still some questions.
Yes, there's now a question about, I have two different apps from RouteYou. One is more of a real app. The other one is as an app that is based on the website. Well, the other one, the one that is based on the website, is also a real app. It's based on the PWA Progressive Web App technology. The other one you have, it's probably with a green star and arrow. That's our old app that's not longer supported anymore. So I would advise you to remove that one. Because it will give you troubles. And as Pascal just showed you how to install the new app, please do that. That's our new app. You have all the functionalities there. So that's the explanation about that. And that's it for the questions, Pascal.
So thank you very much for your attention, your late attention. And I hope to see you on our next webinars. And have fun with it on the field. Bye.
Bye.